Hi, I'm Mary Poplin with Imagineer Systems, and today we're going to go over removing objects and Nadir patching. One of the challenges of 360-degree video is that it captures everything, and that means the crew, the rig, and anything else that's left inside of the scene. So often we have to remove the unwanted elements like camera rigs, lights, and shadows. Mocha's Remove module was designed for removing objects, so you could say that we're specifically designed for this purpose. A very simple rig removal in Mocha involves defining the area that you want to remove, like the camera, tracking the background, and then removing the object. The Remove module uses clean frames from other points in time to rebuild the object pixel by pixel using the background information. You can also use a clean plate if you can't see behind the objects. You can render right inside the plugin, or you can export as rendered frames out of the standalone. For some users and some shots, you might find that the lens workflow is faster than the Remove module. But often the Remove module is a huge time saver because you don't have to do any Rotopaint. Mocha does all the work for you. All this is going to depend on the shot and how invisible the remove needs to be. The Remove module has advanced illumination settings to match color changes in hue, saturation, and value. And that can make the process of painting an object out a lot more automated. All you need to do to use the lens workflow for paint is undistort the footage, paint, redistort the paint back over the top, and render right inside of the plugin in your host application. This is not an ideal workflow in the standalone because you'd have to render in parts, but the plugin makes this simple and easy. First, I want to show you how to do a simple remove. Select your Mocha VR plugin and drag and drop it onto your timeline. Inside of your Mocha plugin interface, hit the Mocha icon to launch the Mocha plugin. This will load your footage directly off the timeline and into Mocha VR. Your lens has already been set to equirectangular, so all you have to do is click the 360-degree button. Next, using your pan tool, you can pan around to the rig that you want to remove. Select your X-spline and draw a shape around the object that you want to remove. X-splines have a handle that's a rope and pulley system, so you can relax for a curve and pull tight for corners. Rename your layer so that you know what layer to use for your remove. Select your X-spline again and draw a big shape around the background that you need to track. And the remove will only be as good as your track. We're going to rename our background to BG. And it's very important that we respect layer order. Mocha treats everything at the top of the layer pile as closest to the camera and everything at the bottom as further away from the camera. This means Mocha holds out top shapes from shapes underneath it. This is how we'll get an accurate track for our background. We're going to use translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective to get a really accurate track on our ground that we need to replace. I'm going to turn my surface and grid tool on because those are the tools that show me what the track is really doing, not the shape. We're going to use link to track and select none in the layer properties. This will make it to where we read everything that moves underneath our shape like a scanner, as opposed to following it. That means the track is constantly scanning new pixels, but the track remains constant. From here I hit track forward and let Mocha do what Mocha is best at, tracking. Now it's time for some Mocha voodoo. I'm going to select my layer I want to remove, and I'm going to select the Remove tab. Because this is a simple remove, there's not a lot for me to do, so I'm going to save and close Mocha, but just know that selecting my Remove layer is what designated that as the remove. Back in After Effects, we're going to make sure our render is checked and our Remove module is selected inside of our module drop-down menu. And instead of rendering in Mocha, we're going to let Mocha render right into our After Effects timeline. So here's what that looks like in a VR space. Here's the before, and here's the after. But what if you can't see behind the object you're trying to replace? In this case, we're going to get rid of ice crystals that mark a plane's passing. As before, we have to select our Mocha VR plugin and drag and drop it directly onto our timeline. From here, we use the Mocha icon to launch Mocha. To speed things up, I've already tracked this background, but it's as simple as drawing a shape around it and selecting track forward. Because the equirectangular lens model is already calculated by Mocha for me, I can use the 360-degree button and the pan tool to move around in a more intuitive view. Using my X-spline, I can define the area that I want to remove. Clicking my 360 button again will move me back into equirectangular mode, where my shape is applied properly. I'm going to name my layer a remove, and I'm going to use link to track to link my foreground shape to my background shape. And you can see that this will move properly along with my track. Next, I click on the Remove tab. Inside of the Remove tab, I hit Create Clean Plate. I can then save my clean plate anywhere that I like. It's important when using a clean plate that you use clean plates exclusively. Now I can open my clean plate in Photoshop, and using the clone tool or the heal tool, I'm able to paint out my clouds. I use Alt to make a selection, and I click to make a stroke. The heal tool in Photoshop allows me to match texture to color, making this quick work. I can save my file out of Photoshop and jump back over to Mocha. Inside of Mocha VR, I'm going to select Linear Illumination Modeling. What this will do is this will change the values of my painting over time so that I don't have to do that by hand. From here, I simply save and close. And back in Mocha, I check Render and drop down to the Remove module. Now I can render on my timeline right inside of After Effects. So here's what that looks like in a VR workspace. Here's the before, and here's the after. In some cases, it's going to be quicker and easier just to use the Lens module for paint. You still need to drag and drop the Mocha VR tools right on your timeline, but you don't have to actually launch Mocha. Simply select Lens Distort in the module render and check the render box. From here, you can use the VR lens latitude, longitude, and field of view controls in order to orient yourself around in your shot. To Rotopaint in After Effects, you select your clone tool and double-click your layer. Since this is more of a Mocha tutorial than an After Effects tutorial, I'm just going to quickly run through and paint out this drone. I use Alt to make my clone selection and click and drag to paint, making sure my paint strokes span the entire timeline, and that the strokes are wide enough to cover the blades. Back in After Effects, I select Layer and Pre-Compose, and then I make sure that all of my attributes are moved into the new composition. If I copy and paste my original Mocha VR effect, I can simply select Lens Distortion, and this will apply my paint correctly back over the equirectangular view. From here, I just hit Render Forward, and it will render right back to my timeline. So here's what that looks like in a VR workspace. Here's the before, and here's the after. If you have any more questions, please visit us at www.borisfx.com.